घुसी जमीन को भी मिट्टी में मिलाने का समय आ गया है।
When you talk of Pakistan, what are the first words that come to your mind? Maybe terroristan, maybe a rogue state, maybe plausible deniability, because that is typical Pakistan playbook. Now on your screen, we'll begin with images. These are images that will define the story for you. On one side, you have Prime Minister Modi, who has made it absolutely clear that this is a war against terror. He does not name Pakistan. He does not say this is a war against Pakistan. But in spite of that, Pakistan is spooked. Everyone that you hear right now coming in from Pakistan, all the responses, they right now tell you that something, of a huge magnitude is upon to hit them. That is Pakistan's response. They are running to the US, they are running to China, they want a mediation, they say, this is India, fear-mongering right now, India is throwing a war on us. But I want to show you the other story. The other story is about a map of India and Pakistan and the LOC. Ever since the attack, remember it's been 8 days. 8 days since the attack at Pahalgam. On your screens, right now, all these spots that you see in red which are blinking, these are actually ceasefire violations. Ceasefire violations unprovoked by Pakistan. Since April the 22nd is when this dastardly, cowardly attack was inflicted on India by Pakistan. If you look at the map, almost every position that you have seen there outlined will tell you that this is the real Pakistani playbook. They are so scared tonight that they do not know what to do. And that is why they are pleading right now to whoever they can, because they say that India is about to attack us. But really, when we did not even mention Pakistan, why is Pakistan getting so worked up? Why is it not cracking down on the rogue elements? And this is when the Indian agencies are hot on the heels of all those 4 terrorists involved in the attack. I'll bring up our straight questions because these straight questions are vis-a-vis Pakistan. But before I do that, I also want to introduce our panel of guests. It's a very special panel that is joining us today. And we'll be looking at what possibly could be the options. How could Pakistan be punished? How could terror, in fact, be dealt with? It's a pleasure and an honor to be joined by General V.P. Malik, who's a former chief of the Army staff, and we'll also have him on our screens in just a moment. J.K. Tripathi is a former ambassador, also on our screens. Major General A.K. Chaturvedi is a defense analyst, and he's written a book titled Water, a Source of Future Conflicts, the Role of Pakistan in India's Energy Security. He'll give you a better idea of whatever has been happening as far as the Indus Water Treaty is concerned, and always a pleasure to also be joined by Colonel R.S.N. Singh, who's a former military intelligence officer, for his time and perspective on the show. And gentlemen, with your permission, let's take our straight questions, because these are straight questions we are asking on the show and we will be discussing. The first straight question will go up on your screens in just a moment. These are questions about Pakistan. I want to know and I want to discuss with our panel of guests, like a lot of you are interested today, to find out what is Pakistan really up to? What is their game plan? Brings us to our second straight question. That is also going to go up on your screens, and that reads, is this a calculated diversionary tactic by Pakistan? Because that's what they've been doing forever. This brings us to our third straight question again, that's on your screens as we speak now. Why is Pakistan raising a false alarm? India has not mentioned Pakistan. But like they say in Hindi, chor ki dadi mein tinka. Why is Pakistan getting so worked up? Why is it wanting to tell everyone that India is attacking us? Is that also a part of a playbook? This brings us to our fourth straight question. Is Pakistan trying to drag both the US and the China because it wants to diffuse the tensions? It does not want to speak of the terror elements, the rogue elements, the many, terror launch pads. It does not want to act against any of that. It wants to diffuse the tension because clearly it is seeing that India is not backing off. And India is going to retaliate, as you've heard from the Prime Minister very clearly. This brings us to our final straight question that's going to go up on your screens now. And that reads, is it also flexing nukes to cover up the terror elements? Because every time, remember, Pakistan will tell you, oh, we are a nuke country. We are a nuclear weapon country. Obviously wanting to put out that threat. But enough is enough, says India. So what should be doing? Let me take our first question with General VP Malik for his time also, as we say again, thank you to him here. So what really are India's options? You've heard the Prime Minister making it very, very clear that he has given a free hand to our forces. Would we be looking at kinetic options soon?
Prime Minister is now obviously referring to kinetic activity from our side. And when he called all the service chiefs, including the CDS, and he had the NSA as well as the Raksha Mantri with him, he would have conveyed what is the objective that he has in his mind. What kind of punishment or what kind of damage he expects to be caused by this thing. So that would be, I would call it, the aim of the objective of a political activity. The political aim, we call it. Now, based on that, our services, all three of them, they will have to work out what would be the military strategy. They'll have to work out what the targets are. Where are the opportunities, and what will be the implications of each one of those options that they have in their mind. Mind you, we always have some short-term as well as long-term options, contingency plans available with us. So they will weigh up those and look at the implications, look at the adversary's reaction, and then finalize that plan. And then they will go back to the cabinet, to the Prime Minister, Cabinet Committee on Security, to get his okay and launch the action that they have in their mind. Now, mind you, this is something he has already told them, that there is no time restriction. It is up to the availability of time that they want. It requires certain amount of preparation. Okay. So it's not something that can happen within the few hours or within a day or two. It will depend when our preparations are complete for that contingency which we want to adopt.
Okay, when you say that, I want to take another quick question before I, go back to the other gentlemen on the panel. And on your screens are also more details of how the story has moved vis-a-vis both the India and the Pakistan side. One side are developments that we have seen vis-a-vis India. On the other side is Pakistan that is clearly in panic. We do not know why. But General VP Malik, tell me another thing, sir. Are we looking at a limited warfare or a war? I mean, what is a real possibility right now?
Yes, I think both options are there, limited war as well as the full-fledged war, other than the nuclear war. But, in between, there is that escalation that takes place. Even if you start with something, you have to be in a kinetic action, you have to be prepared for escalation taking place. Sometimes the escalation takes place very fast, sometimes it can be slow. So we have to keep that in mind, and we have to keep, our aim is to keep it limited, to fight only a limited war. I think that would be the aim even now. Then we have to make sure that every step that we take, that is under observation, it is being monitored, not just by the military, but the whole setup in the cabinet committee. The political intelligence as well as the military, they will have to keep an eye on the escalation that can take place, that monitoring that takes place. So escalation control is also very important, whatever action we want to start, if we want to keep it a limited war. Mind you, Kargil war was a limited war. Yes. And we kept it under control with some action that we had. The other thing that also is helpful, that if there is communication between India and Pakistan, between their militaries, which is there even today, that also can be helpful in controlling the escalation. So what is important is that we should understand it can escalate. If we want to control escalation, then there are certain steps that we must adopt right from the beginning.
So I think you've given us a fair amount of idea what possibly we could be doing. Let's open this up, and I want to get in first Major General A.K. Chaturvedi before J.K. Tripathi and Colonel R.S.N. Singh also come into this conversation. General A.K. Chaturvedi, when you hear what you hear from the Prime Minister, you hear whatever we are hearing now from Pakistan, one thing is clear, that there is a difference in the responses. But what is your reading of why Pakistan right now has, rushed into both to China, to US, asking them to diffuse tensions, asking them to dial down, tensions right now between India and Pakistan, when it itself is responsible for raising the ratchet to where it has?
Actually, Deepthi, firstly, thank you for inviting me for this discussion with such esteemed guests as my old chief is also here, and RSN is an old friend, and Mr. Tripathi is also a good friend. Now, coming to the point, Prime Minister this time when he gave that speech in Bihar, he conveyed to the bird that this time it is going to be a whole of a nation approach to anti-terrorist operations by India. And that has taken Pakistan totally by surprise. They never expected diplomatic measures which India has taken, and especially in this water treaty, holding it in abeyance. If you notice, whatever is coming from the Pakistan press and Pakistan political leadership, I think what has rattled the most is that this kind of a suspension of Indus Water Treaty. In addition to this, the kind of thing which they expect that in case of the war happens faster, because they have, you go back to Qamar Javed Bajwa's statement that they don't have adequate resources any longer. So for a sustained war, unless China and US support them, it will be very difficult for them to sustain a war. So that is why they are trying to give this 24 hours, 36 hours, so that they are trying to bait India. Now, I think it will be foolish on their part, because a professional army does not react to such insinuations. We will go at the time we choose. We go to the place with what we choose, and the form of our response would be what we choose. Prime Minister has given very clear-cut objective that mitti mein mila denge. And this is not only that only those 4 terrorists or 5 terrorists which came and did that dastardly act in Pahalgam. It is that infrastructure which is supporting them. And that is something where very steadily India is going. If you notice, nobody is coming to know what is happening. Infrastructure within India is being destroyed very systematically, and they are at their wits' end that how India is going to respond. They have what they have done in Pasni, what they have done with their F-16s. It all shows very clearly there's a total confusion in their mind.
Exactly.
If the cap remains in air for 48 hours, imagine that no time they have issued in Lahore. So if it costs money.
I think it's a good point, sir. It's a good point that you have raised, and not to forget that if it wants to dial down tensions, why are you having unprovoked ceasefire violations? And I mean, look at the escalation since April the 22nd. I'll also take a moment to request our team to put out graphics of that ceasefire violation, and then I'm going to get in J.K. Tripathi ji also here. Now, J.K. Tripathi, you've been a former ambassador. On a situation like this, clearly India has tried all possible ways, but there is no lesson good enough for Pakistan. Now, Pakistan, when it is wanting to drag both US and China to diffuse, is the world even interested in listening to Pakistan anymore?
You see, now India has tried many times, but now the options are though limited, yet they are to be tried again. First is we'll have to decide, and probably our armed forces will be the best to decide what type of kinetic or static action should be there, what type of what, when, and where. It all will be decided by the armed forces because they are the best to do that.
Correct.
Best in that. Now, diplomatically, you see, we have got the support of more than 126 countries in this, who have actively condemned, and some of them, like I understand, US, UK, Russia, Japan, France, they very unambiguously they have sided with India. Now, what we have to do is, what we are diplomatically doing is that one, isolating Pakistan, exposing Pakistan, and whatever dossiers we have given to our friendly countries, we are giving to others. Now, coming to now, Pakistan had said that they will go to International Court of Justice. Now, ICJ's mandate we do not recognize. We do not recognize the institute of ICJ. World Bank has already said that its responsibility was only to see that if the provisions of the treaty are being carried out, they are carried out properly. Once they are suspended, World Bank has washed off its hand. World Bank says that we cannot do anything. Pakistan went to Security Council, and you see what happened to Security Council. So our intention, besides whatever our armed forces do, is to convince the world powers, the world leaders, where we stand and how to expose the Pakistan. One. Second, at the same time, to keep up the development work, to keep up this development work in Kashmir, so that the POK people who are already dissatisfied, and there had been news, there had been story that there were strike, and they were saying, I mean, a month or two back, that POK people was complaining, and they were saying, okay, you open the border and we go and we'll,
yes,
we'll
and that
settle
is
down
true.
in Indian Kashmir. Because
I think these are all important points. But when, you'll be looking at the Prime Minister, the armed forces, sitting together on the table, RSN, you and I both understand that there are a lot of these options that you don't discuss, in TV studios. But look at how the story has moved. When the Prime Minister makes this very, very clear that all terror and rogue elements are going to be punished. He says we'll go till the ends of the earth to remove them, not just, those people who've perpetrated the terror, but also people who are acting from behind the curtains. And he clearly is referring there to the deep state. Would he be saying something like this without enough evidence, RSN? And do we really need to convince the world, leave aside Pakistan, that we have enough evidence to nail Pakistan?
no, certainly we would be having enough evidence.
Yes, that question is for RSN.
Otherwise,
sir, I'm going to come back to you. I want RSN Singh to respond to that.
So he has made our national intention very clear. When a prime minister speaks from a platform, remember he is articulating the national sentiment and national intention. And 2-3 very significant things he said. He said that "Jo bhi bacha khucha hai Pakistan ka." Then second statement he made was that the objective is big and time is limited. Lakshya bada hai, something to that effect, or time ye hai. So these are two very significant things. So you can conjure things for yourself. I'm nobody to to explain it. Otherwise, as you said, I don't want to inadvertently also let out things which I have no knowledge about. The second thing is that, look, what has happened is that all through, since the creation of Pakistan, the use of non-state actors has been intrinsic part of Pakistan's war philosophy. Madam, I'm sorry to say, we call 47-48 war, as a 1947 India-Pak war. No, it was a war with non-state actors. Yes, there were a sprinkling of, regular soldiers in that. But basically, it was a jihadi attack. Then you come to 1965, again, Op Gibraltar was through this again, through irregulars. Then you come to 71. Even in 71, there were two Jamaat Islami brigades deployed in Pakistan, Al-Shams Brigade and Al-Badr Brigade. And then you come to Kargil. So, then what we did was then 26/11 happened and we didn't do anything. Now, what Mr. Modi did was that he broke this cycle, by this surgical strike and then Balakot strike. Well, that also has not worked. It did not work. So now I think my advice is, and your guess is, my guess and your guess is, that we should now go for the state actors to change the behavior, or I would say rather the DNA of Pakistan. So to change the DNA, you have to do something very drastic. And we did it. We did it. Let me tell you, madam, if you ask me, what we have unleashed, through IWT, it is worse than a nuclear weapon. And that too with the, with the presence of the American Vice President on Indian soil.
But RSN, people might ask that, unless you attack these state, non-state actors, and I think it's still a topic open for a lot of these discussions and interpretations. We do not know what's going to hit Pakistan, because it might not be the common people in Pakistan responsible for this. A lot of them might not agree with these terror elements, but the fact is that is the reality in Pakistan.
I'm saying state actors means the Pakistan military. And this time we should go in for, specifically targeting the Pakistan military, because the architect is Asim Munir.
Yes. I think you're absolutely right on that bit. I want to take this point now to General VP Malik, who's been very patiently waiting, because people are asking General Saab, whether, retaliatory or punitive. What is that action that we must be doing right now vis-a-vis Pakistan?
I think that has been their habit right from the beginning. They've always been doing it. They get into panic, they make a lot of noise and a lot of loose talk also. So I don't think we should pay much attention to that. And if they are causing panic for themselves and for their own public, so be it. But that doesn't worry us. And we should not sort of take every sentence that they speak as something important. Because I have also been watching and following their loose talk. And we should just ignore that.
Okay, I think he's also referring to a lot of this false alarm conversation that we've been having here on the show. Let me take this for a brief comment, because I just have enough time to get back J.K. Tripathi and Major General A.K. Chaturvedi before RSN comes back. General A.K. Chaturvedi, the last 30 seconds to you, I want to know from you that going ahead, what is it that we should keep our focus on? Because these unprovoked ceasefire violations could continue. These false alarms could continue. But India today is strong enough to decide what it needs to do for itself.
Absolutely. As far as kinetic actions are concerned, I think the CDS and the three service chiefs, I think they are quite competent to decide what to hit, how to hit, and where to hit. Those three questions, they can take care. I think when we do the whole of nations approach, this Indus Water Treaty, to my mind, is going to make them pay, because the social changes which it will bring and which the people will be going against, that all those who have caused it. You know that today the Sialkot area, the water is already, the Chenab is almost dried. So these are the kind of things which we make. And this will also, over a period of time, integrate Kashmir more and more with India, because suspension of this treaty will help India to exploit the potential of the three western rivers, which is to the extent of almost 20,000 megawatts.
All right, just 10 more seconds to J.K. Tripathi. His last word on the show.
Well, what we should do is, as I said, that we should try to project our Kashmir and correctly as a steadily developing state, province. Secondly, what I feel is that our military preparedness at the border means Pakistan will have to deploy more and more military personnel on its eastern front. That means Balochistan front and Afghanistan front will be relatively unguarded, which will be better for us. Even if we don't do the kinetic strike, we keep this pressure up for some time so that the Baluchs and Pakhtuns, they get their way.
Okay, but Arasan, just 5 seconds, because I want you to tell me kinetic or not kinetic. I mean, what are you looking at when you hear the Prime Minister and all the developments? 5 seconds, Arasan.
No, this water bomb was non-kinetic. Now what is left to be done is kinetic. So kinetic plus non-kinetic is really going to be devastating for Pakistan.
Okay.
And maybe the strategic objectives are much bigger, and that is why the whole entire Western world is quiet.
All right, I think that's a good note, Arasan, to end this conversation on. Gentlemen, a pleasure to have all of you. We'll continue to have these conversations. I'm thanking all of you right now for joining us. Also time for us to bring to you now Newsnight's parting shot. So what is very, very clear are certain facts. These are facts that are going to go up on your screens. That Pak tactics are at display, it is no surprise. This brings us to our next important takeaway as far as the story is concerned. That there is a lot of domestic political chaos right now, remember, in Pakistan. There is no trust when it comes to the deep state, and that is why they are dealing with a problem of eroding credibility. And every time Pakistan is going down the drain, what it does is that it uses the instrument of so-called state-sponsored terror to inflict harm on India. But this time around, what people say is that this is a turning point. It's a turning point in that war against terror that the Prime Minister has said will actually be leading to costs on Pakistan. And that is why what we say here today is that you have to ensure that the punishment is such that Pakistan will never be able to think of another Pahalgam. Thank you for watching. We'll continue to track that story. Good night.